The National Basketball Association is one of the most competitive leagues in the world. Apart from the display of sheer skill and athleticism, another competition goes on in the NBA that refers to the capital involved. In today's video, we'll look at how the most valuable team in the NBA franchise is not the Knicks or Lakers, but the Golden State Warriors at $7 billion. Starting with breaking the streak. Forbes recently announced their annual list of all the NBA teams with their valuation. The list doesn't reflect how the teams are doing on the court, but it's a nice way to see which one has its hand deeper in the pot of gold. Previously, the top sport was just a ping-pong match between the New York Knicks and the Los Angeles Lakers. We use this analogy because for the past 20 years, it has always been either one of them reigning at the top of the hill. So you understand why it's a big deal that the Warriors have broken this streak, right? Moving on to the Warriors. It's a feat in itself that the Warriors have succeeded in securing the top spot on the Forbes list. But we should also look at how big of an achievement this is. First of all, the valuation is set at $7 billion. This is a massive jump of almost 25% over last year. To elaborate, the team made $765 million in revenue for the season 2021 to 2022. Adding to that, the operating income stood at $206 million. Both amounts are the highest in their categories in the history of the NBA. But that's not all. An additional $150 million were collected from arena sponsorships and $250 million in premium seating, which is the highest in the league. It is worth noting that the Golden State team also won the championship this year, which has certainly contributed to this. Finally, the Golden State's path to success. A few factors have played well in landing the Warriors in this position, but it's worth noting that the management has very smartly managed the team's finance. One of these factors is the Chase Center Arena, a major earner for the Warriors, especially regarding the game day income. But that's not all, because the players on the court, through their confidence and skill, have given confidence to corporate sponsors to invest in the team. Steph Curry, who has the utmost faith in investors, is one example of this. Again, it's not just one factor that can be crowned for the Warriors' success. For example, we also need to credit the media manager for the team, which has kept the team from receiving bad PR, even after events such as the one between Jordan Poole and Draymond Green. The current champions may have started the season a little shaky, but given their track record, each player and each team collectively knows that they can't rule out the new kings of the crowd. Now, let's talk about some of the most valuable teams in the NBA. Starting with number 19, it's Utah Jazz. Owned by Ryan and Ashley Smith, the Jazz is following a steady path in capital growth. Valued at over $2.025 billion for this year's entry, the team from Utah has grown 16% over last year. Apart from that, their operating income stands at $58 million, and that could be a reason why they've increased in value. Following up, the Sacramento Kings at 18. Just a little over the Utah Jazz put the Kings at $2.02 billion in valuation. Operating income comes to only $29 million, while the one-year change stays at a 2% increase. Those are good numbers, but no surprises there. Oh, and it's owned by Vivek Ranadive, so good job, Ranadive, on keeping costs so low. Coming up, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. At a value of $2.05 billion, this is the third team that has gone over the value of $2 billion, but hasn't come close to even 2.1. With that being said, you can't throw away an impressive increase of 24% from last year. Dan Gilbert's team is doing good, especially considering that costs are high from running this one. Next, it's the Portland Trail Blazers. We've finally crossed the $2.1 billion line, and it's all because of Paul G. Allen Trust's team. The team's value has remained rather stable with no notable increase or decrease, but the income stands at $81 million. Yet it's nothing compared to what we're about to see ahead. Following that, we have the Milwaukee Bucks. With an upwards growth of 21%, the Milwaukee Bucks' new value is set at $2.3 billion. That's a sharp rise over the last team on the list, but what's interesting is that the team's operating income stands at $51 million, even after such a ginormous valuation. Wes Edens and Mark Lasry know a thing or two about running their team. Up next, a little magic from the Washington Wizards. You blinked, and now we're in the $2.5 billion range. Owner Ted Leonsis has kept the franchise going with a whopping 30% jump from the previous year's valuation, the biggest jump that we've seen so far, and they've got the cost to match their big boy status. At $90 million, it has one of the highest operating incomes at the lower end of this list. Not to mention the sun that rises from Phoenix. Maybe not the actual sun, but the team, Phoenix Suns. But all jokes aside, this one may shock you. The Suns have improved 50% over 1 year. That's right, 50%. It's now valued at $2.7 billion, and its operating income is $87 million, which is fair. Moving on, can you feel that heat? And we're back with the jokes. The Miami Heat allows us to dip our feet in the $3 billion waters. While the team has won 2 championships, sitting at 12 may not sound great, right. But again, we already mentioned in the beginning that this list is not representative of the team's performances on the court, but just a reflection of how good it's doing when it comes to corporate sponsorships and the overall money game. Owned by Mickey Arison, the Heat has taken a big jump of 30% while keeping the operating income at around $83 million. Not bad. At the 11th spot, it's the Toronto Raptors. We're now taking bigger jumps. The Raptors are $100 million ahead of the Miami Heat, but their running costs are fairly the same. At $87 million, it could be argued that it's on the lower end. But whatever suits the owners, Bell Canada, Rogers Communications, Larry Tannenbaum. But you can't deny the team increased in value by 25%, so that must have something to do with the running costs, no? Following up, the Philadelphia 76ers. Did we say big jumps? Yeah, forgive us, for we take our words back because the team from Philadelphia is only slightly higher than the Raptors. At $3.15 billion, we have finally made it to the midpoint of the list. Excited about the remaining teams? So are we. Oh, and their running costs are the same as the Raptors. Seems fair, given that they both stand very close in value. Up next, we have the Houston Rockets and the Dallas Mavericks. Did we decide to pile them together? Because why not? With values of $3.2 and $3.3 billion, the Rockets and the Mavericks are the first teams with an income cost over $100 million each, with the Rockets $113 million and the Mavericks at $143. To make sure you remember, the Dallas Mavericks are owned by Mark Cuban. Moving on, let's look at the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Clippers. The Brooklyn Nets are a little different from the rest of the entries on this list, and that's because it had an operating loss instead of an operating income. This totals about $34 million, and we're not sure how it's still one of the highest valued teams in the league. The Clippers, on the other hand, are a different ballgame. Valued at $3.9 billion, its operating income falls to just $12 million. Following up, we have the Boston Celtics and the Chicago Bulls. Having the 5th and 4th spot, the Celtics and the Bulls are the first teams to have a valuation of over $4 billion. That's an achievement, to say the least, especially given that both have an operating income of over $130 million. The Celtics are owned by a bunch of people, including Wycliffe Grousbeck and Irving Grousbeck, while just one person owns the Bulls, Jerry Reinsdorf. Last but not least, the Los Angeles Lakers and the New York Knicks. These are the guys that the Warriors dethroned in the number 1 spot. It's not a big deal because they're still at number 2 and 3 spots, and who knows, one of them may climb the ladder again next time. To understand how big a franchise LeBron's team is, look at its value of $5.9 billion, while the Knicks stand at $6.1, even higher than that. That's a wrap for this video. Which team has shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.